So it's obvious to me that Compass's new strategy is to cheat the system. And it's not going to work in the long run. I don't think it works because it doesn't help their customers and it doesn't help them in the long run, but they're going to go after it. They seem to push all their chips in on this, and let's take a look at that and see how this affects us. Now, we've been part of this trend nationally in America of these large national and international companies competing, in many cases unfairly, destroying local businesses. Think about your local business. Where's the local auto shop? Usually replaced by a national chain of tire companies or oil change companies. Restaurants instead of local independent food establishments. So many now are chains or related to chains. And so more and more we see this consolidation of activities, and in many cases because of unfair competition. One example online is YouTube. They built their business by illegally allowing people to put copyright material on their website. And then when they became so big, finally they gave in to the lawsuit, but by that time, they were the dominant online presence and could afford now to charge creators to access their system. Same with Amazon. Amazon really got their initial advantage by not collecting state and local taxes and an unfair competition to the local retailer. If you're gonna buy $100 worth of books, you would save $5, $6, $7, $8 in LA by not paying taxes on Amazon that you otherwise would pay for the local taxes. And that's why Amazon initially had free shipping, was to cover the cost of the taxes so that people would buy from them instead of the local company. And so like that, Compass, which is a national company and kind of financed by a stock company, so they're not making profits, I think is using their unfair advantage of size and money to bully the real estate industry, most recently with the policy regarding listings. Let's take a look at it. So if you look at the numbers, the real estate market today is really dominated by two companies that have 88% of the market capitalization, Zillow and Compass. eXp Realty is 6, actually makes a profit, pays taxes. Anywhere Realogy, many of those companies pay taxes, but neither Zillow nor Compass will pay federal taxes, or they didn't pay last year, unlike to pay this year. So this is the competition, are these big bully companies that dominate the industry, are worth billions of dollars. Their management gets paid millions of dollars in salaries, and to use that to calculate. Now when I say they don't pay taxes, I'll just show real quickly. Here's Zillow, and pre-tax negative for the last 4 years. And here is Compass. Oops, I'm gonna need to share this. I'm sorry, let me do that again. Why did that not share? I don't know, but either way. Oh, well, that's not gonna work. Let's do this. Share screen. And which screen is it? There we go. Okay. So here is the overall cap rate. I showed you this is Zillow paying no taxes, and this is Compass paying no taxes. So again, just make sure I have the receipts to what I'm talking about. So this can't go on. It can't continue in the long run. You can't have companies destroy the competition, paying no federal taxes, then establishing as a monopoly. Now, in particular, what Compass is trying to do is replace the multiple listing service. And we use the word the multiple listing service. It really is a misnomer. There is a collection of companies nationally that are called multiple listing services. And in many cases, they compete. Here in LA, I'm a member of the combined LA West Side, or the CLAW, the MLS.com, here locally. But there's also agents in my neighborhood who use a competing service, CRMLS, or another one, because they all cooperate. And what we call the MLS really is a series of businesses around the country that share information. We work together, we share amongst agents, and that helps our sellers get their homes sold, that helps buyers find properties. And this started with just a couple people, I believe it was in New York, a couple agents got together and said, hey, let's share our listings, and we could do it in a way that will be to our mutual benefit, and they created some rules to follow that. Now, 10 years ago, we had 900 MLS businesses across the country, and today we have about 510 left. And so Zillow, separately, and Compass, separately, want to replace these companies to be the national hub, whereas in the past we've had these different companies that compete, they have to pay taxes, they have a profit, but more importantly have to serve their customers, now looking to be replaced by Zillow or Compass, whose job really is to make money for them and destroy everybody else. And so that's what's really happening in the marketplace. Let's take a look at, though, really what's happening. Compass, for example, wants to change the rule. It used to be that if you're a member of the MLS, it still is the rule. You have a new listing, you are obligated, if you're going to market it, to show it to everybody. So when you join the group, and you don't have to, but if you're going to join the group, you say, look, we're going to be a group that shares all of our listings for everybody's mutual benefit. If you don't want to do that, like most commercial agents aren't, then you're not in the group, but then you don't have to play by the rules. But if you're in the group, you have to play by the rules. And so one of the rules is you have to put your house on the market right away. Well, let's take a look at what this looks like in real life, because what Compass is saying is we want to hide the listing for 3 weeks. We want to call it something fancy like Compass Exclusives. We'll just show it to our agents, try to double end it, make more commission at the expense of our seller. And if that doesn't work, which by the way, they say it doesn't work 94% of the time, they're just wasting time trying to make a higher commission at the expense of the seller, then they'll put it on the market. You say, well, what's so bad about that? Let's take a look at a real world example. Now I have a listing in, here's a listing that Compass has in the Toy Lofts in downtown Los Angeles, 1855 Industrial Street, number 112, 1.395. Days on market, nine days. Well, that's not true. I talked to the listing agent, and I verified this property had been a Compass exclusive. It's been in the market 3 weeks plus 9 days, or about 30 days. Now, I have a listing in the same place, same building, 31 days on market. I started about the same time they did. So the whole premise of Compass is that there's two things you're trying to do. One, they're going to fool a buyer into thinking this is newer on the market, right? It's only 9 days, whereas this one is old, it's 31 days, when in fact they've both been on the market at the same time. And second, they want to fool sellers into saying, well, we're better at marketing than other agents because our property sold in 9 days where bills took 31 days, was basically the same time period, right? And so all this is just a way to fool buyers and fool sellers. That really isn't fooling anybody. It's just so patently obvious, obviously dishonest, that it shouldn't work. And it's not going to work. Like, people know the truth. And so imagine if you're a buyer. So if you come to me, and let's look through it again in real life. You come to me and say, Bill, I want to buy this property because I think it's newer and it's a better deal. Do I tell him the truth? Well, I know that it was on Compass Exclusives for 3 weeks. It's really been in the market 30 days. Or do I not? And you might say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, how about if I don't know that? If I'm an agent at Compass or not, I would mistakenly tell my buyer, oh, this one's a newer listing. It's only been on 9 days. It's newer, fresher, better for some reason. All I'm doing now is just forcing other agents to also get in on the lie, because we're going to pretend as though it's been in the market 9 days when in fact it's been in the market for 30 days. So the whole thing is just really a shell game that they're playing with their own customers, and you kind of lose track of the lies. Here's another one. So on one hand, and Compass wants to have it both ways. They want to tell you, they want to tell sellers, oh, it's just as good when you market on the exclusives because we have this massive activity program. We're going to, and they show on their website, we have this network of thousands of agents that can see your property. Now, in all LA County, Compass has about 2,000 agents, so it qualifies as thousands. But are they saying they're marketing the property, say, in downtown LA to agents in West LA, to agents in the South Bay, and to Long Beach, and to Antelope Valley? I don't think so. Are they? Well, technically, they wouldn't be lying because it's a network that's available to them. None of them actually look at it, right? And so you have in LA County about 40,000 total realtors. And so what Compass is doing is showing it to those who are interested that are at Compass, maybe a couple hundred. And rather than the whole market, they have about 5% of the agents in the area. So they're really saying, we're going to show it to 5% of the market and kind of hide it from the other 95%, hoping we can double end it. But they make it sound, with very clever wording, make it sound like they're showing it to the larger market. Now, it's a little more than that, because now they're offering it to other agents with strings attached. Let's take a look what that looks like. This is a report in Housing Wire. They're going to allow agents like me now to show their listings if I want to market them, but they have different rules. I have to show them as a listing agent. Well, that's what we do in the MLS. I can't monetize it. Well, I can't monetize the MLS. They have other ways of getting paid for that. But I do pay a fee to access it, but I can't charge people to see Compass's listings that are their exclusive listings. So you have all these rules, and I'm sure there's a form involved and a contract involved that looks a lot like the MLS, meaning all Compass is doing is, I guess, creating an alternative MLS, like they want to be the new MLS. Now keep in mind, there's 510 different MLSs. Why? Because they're all different. Some are based in certain localities. Some know about certain local regulations that others don't. Some are locally owned with proprietors that are active in the local market and promote the market. There's a lot of reasons why. But Compass wants to replace them with what? A series of rules we're all going to agree to. It sounds like the MLS all over again. It's even worse than that, because then you find out at the same time, Compass is saying we will no longer follow NAR rules. Now, look, I don't have a problem if you don't want to be a member of the National Association of Realtors. Many commercial agents, for example, are not. One of the main reasons why is that NAR requires, or did require, agents to join the multiple listing service. But Compass is going further now. They're saying, we don't want to follow the rules of the group of which we're members. And when they ask him why, it's just like whining. He might be a great guy. I've never met him. But geez, just you read the article. This is in Housing Wire. And basically what they're saying is, well, we vote against these rules, so we don't want to support him. So this guy is the equivalent of a local resident saying, well, I voted against the president, so I'm not going to follow the rules of the federal government. I voted against the IRS, so I'm not going to pay taxes. I voted against LAPD, so I'm going to speed or park wherever I want. It doesn't work that way. When you're in an organization, you work hard, you make your best arguments, you like to win when you can, but at the end of the day, if you lose the argument, you still follow the rules, or you get out of the organization. And so here you have a case where, so now we want to believe that Compass is going to share their listings with certain rules, but the rest of us need to follow their rules, while Compass doesn't follow the NAR rules on the same subject matter. You follow me? It gets very convoluted. I think at the end of the day, it all just sounds like Compass wants what Compass wants. It doesn't really care what's best for customers or anybody else in the industry. To the contrary, National Association of Realtors has a very detailed 8-page code of ethics and standards of practice that determine what we can and can't do as real estate agents. We cannot, for example, not tell an agent if an offer has been accepted on a property. There are agents who would like to continue to have offers come in or show buyers or keep a property listed to get buyer leads. We're not allowed to do that. We're supposed to update the status in the MLS, tell everybody the property is under contract, and be honest about it. Well, there's a whole 8-page list of rules we have to follow. And again, Robert Refkin, the CEO of Compass, is saying, we're going to pick a few we don't like and not follow those. It doesn't work that way. When you join an organization, you follow the rules of the organization. If you don't like the organization, then you get out. And at least Zillow, I have to say to their credit, I believe back when they announced the conflict with the NAR, got out. And I have a problem if you don't want to join the organization. I could see, it works for me. I'm glad to be a member. I'm a proud member. I pay dues. I don't agree with everything they do. But I do think that they serve my interests and the interests of my customers. That's why I'm a member. What do you think about this? This whole situation is just, I think, out of control. And Compass, to me, looks like a desperate, when animals are wounded, they're most dangerous. And to me, Compass, to me, feels like a desperate animal. They've survived by investors. They've not turned a profit yet. And they're looking for some game or gimmick to give them a competitive advantage by bullying the industry. And I just don't think that's going to work. And I think at the end of the day, the best solutions are transparency and hard work. If you're willing to work hard and outwork your competition, you've always made it in real estate. If you're trying to find some gimmick and fool people, I've been around 40 years, it's never worked. So what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them. Let's take a look at the market overall. I am just fascinated the interest rates are as flat as they are. For all the talk about volatility in the economy, we've been in one of the flattest markets of mortgage rates in my career. This is the piece right here for the last year, where rates are about the same they've been almost all year long, below 7%, closed last week about 6.82%. Certainly good enough for buyers. I do think they should come down based on the economy. We should see rates lower by maybe a percent to 1.25% based on where the other market interest rates are, but it is where it is. We've got plenty of buyers for our listings right now, and overall, good time to buy a house, I think. As far as the flip side of the economy in housing, which is inventory, so we still have rising inventory, which is common for this time of year. At the same time, as you can see from this chart, well below the pre-pandemic period. I think that's the important thing to notice is, and most businesses have adjusted to the post-pandemic period. Real estate still has not. We don't have near enough houses built. And at the same time, we have kind of a lot of factors holding it back. So anyhow, overall, I would say the inventory is low. As long as it's low, housing prices cannot go down significantly. They can go down a little bit, maybe a couple of percentage points, or stay flat with inflation and lose in real value. But it can't go down in value unless you have more sellers who have to sell, and that does not seem to be anywhere on the horizon currently. In Los Angeles, our market stays about a slight seller's market. Alto shows it at 36. It dipped down to 35. It's been in about this range for a few months now. So I think overall our economy is weaker in Los Angeles than nationally. But when you burn up 15,000 homes, that's inventory that we've lost. And a lot of those are people who still want to live here and looking for houses. So you have kind of some artificial demand and artificial reduction in inventory that keeps our market here, I think, a slight seller's market. So overall, the market is a seller's market, but in some pockets, like downtown LA, still suffering from the protests and riots and everything going on down there. Okay, quick look at the news. We have a couple articles to review. I think you'll find this one's a relief. It's a relief. You know, the politicians tell us that nothing to worry about. The politician who gave a contract to her husband's company to a $2.1 million contract to a company where her husband works. According to LA politicians, that's okay. Now, to normal, ethical, decent human beings who pay taxes, don't work for the government, we call that graft, payola, dishonesty, and what's wrong with our government. But not to worry, the city of Los Angeles did an investigation and determined it's okay that this woman, what's her name, the CEO of LASA, doctor, of course, a doctor, Valencia Adams Kellum, and of course she's got to have 4 names, that's okay that she gives a contract to an organization where her husband works for $2.1 million. Nothing to worry about there. That's normal LA politics in the housing market. I think what this shows is just the whole thing, the whole housing program is just a money laundering operation for politicians. It's all about how much they control, and they all get a bite of it. And here's a case where Dr. Valencia Adams Kellum, she gets her bite by her husband having job security at some organization that gets a $2.1 million contract. Most of us would be thrilled to have a spouse working in a company that got that contract and would consider it unfair. But again, in LA, that's normal. Also, under government involvement in housing, I predicted this. Go back to my issue after the fires. I said not only will most of the houses never be rebuilt, the vast majority of homes rebuilt will be built by the government. In the Palisades, Governor Newsom announced a $100 million program to build Palisades low-income housing. Now, keep in mind, these are houses that were burned to the ground. It's not like you're buying housing and moving people out, which is expensive. You're buying land. The state can claim them by eminent domain, and because they're burned to the ground, they have very limited value. And this is a disaster. Why the state is going to put in low-income housing in the Palisades, why the state's going to build housing there makes no sense at all, other than this is how they get paid. They bring in a $100 million project. This guy gets a couple million. That guy gets a couple million. This guy's donor gets a deal. This guy gets a contractor. That's how this all works. And what shocks me about this is there's no outrage. You have 15,000 people lost their house in the Palisades, more people in the Eden fires. And we see this coming. This is how business has been done in LA my entire lifetime. The fact there aren't riots in front of the governor's mansion or City Hall over the city spending $100 million to steal housing and use it for money laundering, it just amazes me. But at the end of the day, I guess people just don't care. And we have nice guys trying to rebuild the city. I like Rick Caruso. I admire him. He's a great human being, fantastic entrepreneur. But he's way too nice. Because these people play for keeps. This is about their living. And Governor Newsom has found a way to, I think, finance the rest of his family's life through stealing property and using it through the low-income housing strategy of money laundering. Also in the news, in case you're wondering, you might say, well, why are interest rates high? And there's this dispute with Jerome Powell of the Fed. And is he a good guy? I don't know, maybe you like him, maybe you don't. I don't. He just remodeled the Federal Reserve building at a cost in Washington, D.C. of $2.5 billion. Now, to me, that sounds like a state-of-the-art NFL football stadium. This is a property where they own the property, so this is just a rebuild. It's not acquisition of the land like SoFi Stadium, where they had to buy the land at some point. And this is only about $700 million cost overrun. So you have people who are making our banking policies who are spending money like, well, drunken sailors don't spend this much money. So I would say like, the wealthiest people in the world living a lifestyle well beyond any taxpayer. And at the same time, they're just blowing through, originally got approved 1.8 million and just blowing through another $700 million. In fact, to go back to the last story, where in California, Newsom wants to build 100 homes for $100 million, you might say that the Federal Reserve just blew 7 times that, enough for 700 locum homes. They don't care. They want to make sure they have fancy, rooftop lounges and all kinds of spas and racquetball courts and pickleball courts and all that stuff. And so there's your tax dollars at work, $2.5 billion to remodel the Federal Reserve Bank building in Washington, D.C. Unbelievable. And again, the fact that people don't object to that and don't cry out about that amazes me. That's why I do this podcast, because at least once a week I say to myself, I need to get my voice out there saying, this is not acceptable. This isn't the life that we should be living. I look back at my life. I've been an adult now for over 40 years. Everything's gotten worse. It's harder for people to get jobs. It's harder for people to save money. Harder for people to buy houses. And we need to push back on our politicians to at least object and say, this isn't acceptable. And we need to make these people feel unwelcome in acceptable circles. And so that's my attempt here. That's why I do this podcast. What do you think? Am I being too harsh? Am I being unfair? Put in your comments, unlike this, subscribe, send me a message if I can help in any way. I'm at Bill Gross Probate on social media. I'm out in front taking your questions and comments. I get responses every week. I'd love to hear yours. Either way, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.